security. And you know, with what has happened in our economy, AK, you would agree with me that we have seen how it's so beautiful to actually start a business from the comfort of your home, e-commerce and all of that. So nothing good, you know, than getting a giant like this partner to help small businesses, you know, make those payment processes easy, you know, and secure, which is the most important thing for Paystack. They want it to be secure because now you do not know who to trust. So most times what businesses still do is, no, transfer to my personal account and all of that. Once they confirm payment, so this would help more businesses, you know, move their business, you know, what's it called, online. Yeah, AK, you want to say something?
So, you know, we've always talked about how COVID.
Go ahead.
We've always talked about how COVID has prepared us for a lot of things. So somehow, maybe every day I'm beginning to realize how COVID is a blessing. You know, from enabling working from home to helping small businesses just start and begin to think out of the traditional way of doing things. So I'm looking at that as a blessing. Now, payment, as you mentioned, is also a big issue when it comes to small businesses. And I'm not just looking at local payments, we're also looking at international payments, because it's very difficult, especially with the situation of our Naira. It's just very difficult for small businesses to be able to transact outside the country. So I hope with this, it will help us solve some of the issues that we're having with
Absolutely. Payments. And I think part of this partnership with Google is to help SMEs to grow, digitize their businesses with new tools, give them financial support and training that will help business communities in Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa rapidly grow. So, which is good. I mean, there's nothing like online scaling. Most times when you put your businesses online, it just yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to take a break. We're going to take a break now. When we return, we'll be discussing with Charles first, how to rebuild businesses. I mean, after the aftermath of what we saw with small businesses being vandalized and all of that. So how do we help to rebuild SMEs in those places that were affected? Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
As a Nigerian, you can't even look good.
They are all criminals. They are not the policemen.
Now we continue to kill us.
Plus TV Africa. Wherever the story goes, we go.
We are the Lucky Toll Gate. The crowd is growing.
And because you get dreadlock,
Police brutality is too much.
these officers were tired. This is just the beginning.
Following the conversation.
The Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigerian Police, otherwise known as SARS, is hereby dissolved.
This stuff where you did talk now, yeah.
They've ended SARS online. SARS offline don't know what's going on.
Any SARS will touch my picky, we go die here. We don't die here.
Why isn't the message by the IGP enough? Without the proper equipment and proper orientation, you're still going to have garbage in, garbage out.
SARS has been disbanded. Disbanding of SARS is only the first step.
It is not a crime that we were born Nigerian.
Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, affected business owners will tell you that no business school will prepare you for the kind of damage that we have seen happen to small businesses across Nigeria in the last 2 weeks. Now, with the understanding that small businesses are the largest employers of labor, how can we rebuild and where will be the starting point? Let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join this conversation. Tweet at us at Plus TV Africa or at Ways Show Africa 1 with the hashtag Ways Show, or you send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. So I'll bring our guest in shortly. But before I do that, AK, I wanted to hear, what do you think should be even the starting point for what we've seen. I was saying that Harvard, Lagos Business School, London Business School, I am sure did not prepare most business owners for what we saw, that, I mean, all the looting and the vandalism that we saw, that we witnessed in the past 2 weeks. So what will even be the starting point? Where do we even start from?
Align with your thoughts. Nothing would be, so it's like an act of God. Like when you say flood comes and just cuts everyone away. Nothing would have prepared anyone for this. Nothing. So I didn't want to approach the saying that if you had started like this on that day, maybe nothing would have happened to you. But when, this question that you asked is a puzzling question that I've asked myself right from when the incident happened, I think from the 21st thereabout, I've been asking myself this question because the things that have gone down the drain are not just the physical items in the shop. So you put it rightly. We're talking about people's jobs. We're talking about experiences, that people have started from the very scratch. So it's like going back to start from the beginning. And then I hear a lot of people talk about, your books, the books that you had, but you should know the kind of businesses that we're talking about. We're not talking about corporations that had servers that are in one cloud. I saw some of the effects of that act of vandalism. They took everything. So even the businesses that had records on the system, they cutted the system. And we do not know how many of those businesses even have the documents on the cloud. That's even something we're struggling to build capacity for businesses to have. So you see that question. It's a very hard question. And I hope that Charles can help us.
I tell you, in fact, thank you. Thank you.
How do SMEs actually start? Because you even have to say, how do I begin to know what I lost in the first place?
Absolutely.
So I think when Charles comes on,
we have to ask him. I mean, you took the words. You took the words right out of my mouth, AK. Honestly speaking, that's the point. Because I know. I was in an SME workshop for 7 days. These are big businesses that are making hundreds of millions, as turnovers. But guess what? Zero documentation. That is the biggest problem a lot of SMEs have. So how would you even start to say that, okay, this is what I have lost? So now that the government is saying that they have set aside funds to help SMEs, where do they even start from? Because some of these SMEs do not have their inventories. They don't have some of these things documented. So where do you even start from? All right, you know what? Let me bring in Charles. Let's call Charles. Yes, let's call Charles to answer the golden question. Charles Anyanwu currently, Charles Anyanwu currently serves as the Director, Strategy, Funding and Stakeholder Management at the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, and he's joined the conversation this evening to tell us how. Charles, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Uwa. It's a pleasure to be here.
We are honored to have you. So, Charles, you heard our banter.
I hear all the banter, and so it seems like Charles has an answer to everything now. So you put me on the spot, but you will see how that goes. Like you rightly mentioned, this seems like an act of God, and there's really very little preparation that one could have had prior to this. But let me first of all start by introducing the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, which was established by law in 2016 to essentially provide financial support to residents of Lagos State for jobs, wealth creation, and essentially to tackle unemployment, particularly youth unemployment. With Lagos State, of course, being the commercial capital of Nigeria. So it becomes even more important that we do this. So just exactly this time last week, on Friday, 23rd, we launched an MSME recovery fund, relief fund to support businesses that were vandalized and looted within the week. And one of the reasons why we sought to do this was because we, just coming out of COVID, there's already a lot of challenges that they're facing from a revenue generation perspective, from a cost expenditure perspective, because very little was coming in, and for quite a number of them, they were still paying salaries and all whatnot. So there's already a lot of pressure on their finances. But most importantly, it's also something silent, which is the psychological effect that all of this is having on these individuals. And so we sought to set up a fund that will provide grants to these businesses. We're targeting 2.5 billion naira. And since we launched on Friday, we've been able to raise about 1.6 billion naira to support MSMEs. And we have seeded some of that fund. We've also been fortunate to have good partners come on board. So if you visit any one of our social media handles, you will find a lot of information into how you can participate.
Okay, so
either for a business, you can register your business to make this support available to you. But even as an individual, as a corporate organization, you can also support this by lending a hand and donating to the fund to support these businesses.
Charles, I just want to say that because, well, it's a good initiative. But like AK and I were talking, most small businesses, despite the fact that SMEs are like 70%, of businesses are owned by SMEs. So despite this huge number, we still have a lot of underdocumented businesses that we don't even know. You can't track it. You can't. So how will all of these things affect those kinds of businesses? But let me come to AK first. Maybe she would throw in her question, then you can now come in.
Okay, I think that your question is even asked because I was going to ask that it's nice. I know that from the last time I checked, you guys have received over 3,500 applications, and I know that you have a process to go through it. But for the small business that is listening, and also to align with what Uwa just said about not being documented, how will those SMEs begin to even access those funds? Like, what will be required of them? So we're talking about people that are starting from ground zero. Mm-hmm. So what do they bring to prove to you, apart from the destruction that has happened? I know probably you may not be able to give us the entire details of the credit process, but walk us through what any SME watching right now needs to get ready to be sure that they can be part of this fund.
Yes. Thank you. And you are very, very accurate. I was just about to say before Uwa stepped in that, look, across Lagos, since we started this, 3,500 plus unique applications have come in. And most of the businesses affected are those in fashion, beauty, food, beverage, retail, wholesale trade. I'm sure, even having said this, you can immediately imagine that quite a number of these businesses are owned by women.
Yeah.
And it puts even a lot more pressure on some of the gains that we sought to have over the past 4 years since since inception. Is also not just to empower entrepreneurs, but also to empower female entrepreneurs. So this is a huge setback for everybody. Both the businesses as well as government. But what we also find is that this is not happening, all over Lagos, but most the areas that are most affected in terms of local government areas will be Alimosho, Surulere, Etiosa, Ifako-Ijaiye, and Ikorodu. Now, these areas are the areas that were most hit. Mm-hmm. And haven't started doing some analysis of these businesses that have come forth. The key things that we see is, again, like you mentioned, the lack of records, and not just financial records. Ab initio, we used to push a lot about financial records, keeping financial records, because you need that to be able to demonstrate your financial capacity and then be able to access loan either from us or from other providers of institutional providers of capital. Now, one of the things that we also see now is that indeed, even records around inventory are not necessarily available. So this makes it very difficult even for us to assess the actual damage, as well as how much they would need to get back on their feet. So what we try to do now is to look at the records in terms of the bank statements that they provide, to try to do some analysis around. And I also need to mention that this particular fund is actually being run by an independent steering committee. So it's not the typical LSCTF loan program where we do this in-house, because we needed to create, that transparency, the process, and also because we typically do not do grants. We do loans, but these are grants to support the businesses now because we understand where they are. And so it's proving even more difficult than we initially envisaged, because these records are nowhere to be found. So we're having to do a lot of digging to ascertain what the real value of the business is. And of course, we don't have a bottomless pit to give everybody exactly what it is that they had prior. But what we want to try to do is to offer an amount that will at least help them to get back on their feet.
Okay.
And so there isn't any, so like you rightly mentioned, even for those who had records, some of the records are not on cloud. Fortunately, we do have some fintech companies, some technology, some CRM companies as well that are providing some solutions that are cloud-based now. And for some of these businesses, yes, they have been fortunate enough to formalize or put some structures in place that they will now reap. This is the time that they actually reap the benefit of doing the hard work early. But this is also then to encourage others who didn't, as they rebuild, to begin to look at these kinds of opportunities, these kinds of products that they can leverage. And even the big companies are now also looking to do products for micro businesses and looking at volume as opposed to value from a couple of clients. So for those who are in the technology space, local technology companies, this is also an opportunity to look at what kinds of products that you can design now to support the smaller businesses with services that can help them to capture this data cloud-based in a way that they can access it from anywhere. And even though the appliance has been taken away, they can still access the data from maybe their phones or a new device or whatnot, and which is one of the benefits of having a cloud-based system. So lessons learned from this in terms of keeping financial and records inventory, keeping records is very, very important. But also we also find that there's an opportunity for insurance business as well.
Yeah.
Maybe micro insurance of some sort that you can begin to look at that. So this is information for the insurance companies as well to look at creating products for businesses at the base of the pyramid, as opposed to the large corporates that they will typically design products for.
Okay.
Yes.
So, AK, do you want to come in?
Yes, I wanted to come in. I wanted to say, let's move away from Lagos State and LSCTF and talk a little bit about business. Okay. And why I'm saying this is because not every state is opportune like Lagos State to be able to, offer this kind of help. So if you were to advise businesses, what kind of funds do you think that businesses should be seeking at this time? Because we know that this event went around the country And people will be looking towards, for example, some people would approach a bank to look for short-term funds. And so that's the direction I'm going to. So in your advice, what kind of funds should these SMEs be looking for, and who should they be looking towards for this kind of funds?
Okay. Yeah, so in terms of financing now, it's very tricky because, if this was a one-off experience, we didn't have the pandemic to deal with, which alone poses a different, kettle of fish. But with this alone, if we could, let's try to isolate this right now and say, look, this is where you are. So a few areas where you can start from. First would be friends and family, right? We heard just recently that, some of the moves by the CBN is further reducing the kind of investment, safe investment that people would typically put their monies towards is no longer as lucrative. And people are now holding funds and probably looking at other investment opportunities, so alternative investment opportunities. Now, for these businesses that have had some form of structure in place, this is an opportunity for them to access some of those funds from friends and family, possibly for a stake in their business. If they can demonstrate that the business is viable, previous records will also provide some information as to the viability of that business. This is also an opportunity for some businesses. It depends on how much the level of devastation of that business, right? So if you have lost inventory only, and or there's not much structural damage that has been done, and you happen to be in an industry where your business has some considerable power over your suppliers. If there's already a stretch in the economy and that supplier is not getting any business, this may be an opportunity for you to also try to negotiate favorable trade terms, right? And if you can get supplies from them and you have a delayed payment, then it's an opportunity for you to get free cash flow to your firm by offering these products, getting it free, and then, of course, well, not free, but getting it with no upfront payments required, and then trading, and then getting some monies in between. So this then becomes an opportunity. Of course, okay. I see some adverts, some banks are offering.
Charles, all right, sorry, because we have to go on a very quick break. Just hold that thought. When we come back, you will continue from where you were talking. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
We can't talk about education reform if we don't decolonize our education system.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize. Because it's just cultural. And I think it's just human nature.
They stop paying us salary. I don't like remembering it.
I am angry at Nigeria. I'm angry at this government which seems to be letting us down. I'm angry at us as a people.
In the process of struggling to free myself from his hand, he tore my pants and he raped me.
Yes, I commit the first trillion.
Young girl, do you know where you are going? I say, I'm going to America. I say, now so that they talk, you are going to Libya. Which America?
As it then do mark our place, some people they die now.
This is Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
If you're just tuning in, we're discussing rebuilding SMEs and the road to recovery, and we still have Charles Anyanwu with us. Now, please let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join this conversation. Tweet at us at Plus TV Africa or at Ways Show Africa 1 with the hashtag Ways Show, or send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. All right, so Charles, before we went on the break, you were trying to talk to the people about, you know, the kinds of funds to look out for. And I completely agree with you, because I do business myself, and I know that sometimes when I do not have a lot of funds, I just go, because of the integrity capital that I've built over the years with most of my suppliers, I'm able to take products worth 5 million, products worth 10 million. Then I tell them, okay, this is the, I'll spread out the checks, and I say, okay, this is when I'm going to pay my first installment, my second installment. So that is actually easy for businesses that have structured something over the years, and they have that integrity capital with some of their suppliers. Now, for businesses that they are the wholesalers themselves, because last week, Friday, we had Lami on the show, and she was talking about someone that took a loan of 100 million naira and imported things, and the entire warehouse was looted. Where can that person even start from? You know, because it's easy. I don't think your funds can solve their problem. So I was going to ask you, you know, where is the role of community orientation? Because if a community is, I mean, we saw some videos that surfaced online that we saw them educating them that if you destroy this property, this property is serving this community, right? So I wanted to say that where's the role of community education in terms of protecting the SMEs, knowing that it is this business or this one maybe supermarket that employs about 50 people in that vicinity. Do you understand? So how can we use that to leverage on the road to recovery, rebuilding SMEs, so that they even have the confidence? Because if I come to you now and you give me 5 million naira, what happens tomorrow if there's another unrest? They go and loot. I'll give you a typical example. Novari Mall was looted when they did the xenophobia, attack. Now, I know some stores that did not recover from that looting. Some stores were able to recover and restock. Guess what? This recent looting, they went again and emptied the entire mall. Circle Mall was worse. They even burned down the mall. So I'm saying that, so how do we look for creative ways? Because it is not only money that I think can solve this problem if we're talking about rebuilding SMEs. So what are the other creative ways that we can come together to say, you know what, let's all join hands together and find solutions to rebuilding businesses?
Thank you very much, Uwa. And I would just, again, it seems like, you know, we're on the same wavelength. And I was about to say that, look, some of these businesses, you know, what you permit persists, right? And we got a taste for what has happened now during the xenophobia attack. And unfortunately, we didn't address that when it happened. It's quite unfortunate, because I live along the Lekki axis, and though I was fortunate not to be out, we had people attack even people driving home at that period. And they went and they looted the shops, and then maybe we didn't take it into consideration because we felt that this was an attack on South African businesses in Nigeria. But that was really just a dress rehearsal for what we have seen now. And to your point, there's a lot of advocacy, there's a lot of information dissemination that needs to happen at the grassroots level. And what this has unearthed really is the level of, you know, decadence, the level of poverty in the country. And, you know, when news came out that we were now the poorest nation, people sort of tried to kick back, and we wanted to, you know, we wanted to plaster over the cracks. But now it's come, you know, the chicken has come home to roost, right? And this is where we are. So there isn't, in my opinion, a single right way to do this. But what we need to do now is that, like you said, the community building from the local government level. I think we need to begin to be more intentional about the kind of social interventions that we are delivering at that level. And it needs to be genuine. It needs to go beyond handing over, don't just give them an Okada. That is not sufficient.
Yeah.
You have to provide some level of education towards business and how you can take this and grow this into something that doesn't just feed you, but is able to, you can pass on from one generation to the next. That's the kind of education that we need to start providing to entrepreneurs now, because a lot of businesses are set up or started maybe by coincidence in some instances, and you find that the entrepreneurs themselves often always do not think beyond themselves, and which is why when some profit comes in, it goes into something material as opposed to plowing back into the business to grow a dynasty that will last 100 years and beyond.
Absolutely.
But for us to get to that point, there's a lot of advocacy, there's a lot of capacity development that needs to happen at the bottom, right there at the bottom. And we need to be able to design these programs in ways that, even if it's a language barrier that we have, and we need to be able to deliver these programs such that language then doesn't become a barrier. We need to be able to provide, so I was talking earlier about some form of insurance, right? So we need not think about products because we are a mass market economy, really. And so product design and product implementation should begin to have this at the base, which is you need to be thinking mass market in terms of how the product is designed, how the product will be delivered, the value chain across, that particular sector, and just be a little bit more intentional. That's in a nutshell, that's what I think that we need to do. And it's not going to happen overnight because I tend to see that we like quick fixes, but this is not something that will be fixed very quickly.
Okay.
We need to be able to draw a roadmap, and we need to be able to hold ourselves accountable. And what are the milestones that we need to see to know that we are making progress? And when we are not making progress, we need to swallow our pride and go back to the drawing board and not just continue to try to shove it.
Government, are you people ready to swallow your pride? Okay, AK, please over to you.
Okay, so very apt. Like this last answering the questions had so much that I even wanted to ask that you've addressed. The role of capacity building in all of this, and as occupying your position, I know that you have seen that money sometimes is not the problem, but how to use the money to effectively run a business. So I appreciate that. Now, let me ask one very controversial question. Is there any good in all of this? And by that, I mean, is there any positive thing coming from starting a business afresh? Is there any positive lesson at all?
Yes. A lot of people during the pandemic said that their time away from the hustle and bustle, which is Lagos, gave them an opportunity to reflect on many things, including their businesses, the business model. Some you will find they begin to pivot into other things because the current model was no longer viable as a result of the restrictions brought about by the pandemic. So yes, there's a lot that should be learned from this. Okay. Now, again, like I mentioned, it's being able to swallow your pride and understanding that, look, I need to change. Something needs to change.
Absolutely.
It can no longer be business as usual.
Okay, so let us bring in.
When we say,
go ahead.
For those who are designing products, now need to think mass market because there is obviously an opportunity there. When we say for those who are the entrepreneurs themselves, we need to start putting some form of structure, no matter how no matter how granular it is, to put something in place, especially around record keeping, it's very, very important. You now need to start leveraging technology. We can now see you spoke about cloud earlier on. So even designing capacity development programs, we now need to start designing programs along these lines to help people at the bottom to transition from the brick and mortar business models that they are used to something else. And language, like I mentioned, should not be a barrier. So how do we, those who are in the business of capacity development, whether they are social programs or whether as a commercial institute that provides access to capital, how do you want to deploy that capital, and what other support services are you deploying along with that capital to ensure that your capital is preserved?
Okay, so
because
Charles,
there's a lot of losses happening right now, even at the commercial level.
Charles, okay,
so
because we have like 2 minutes.
Everybody needs to.
Charles, can you hear me?
So
Sorry.
everybody now needs to be responsible. Everybody needs to act responsibly. It's no longer profit.
Okay, sorry, Charles. I don't know if you can hear me because we have like 2 minutes to wrap. I just want to take in one question. AK will take in one question. Ade from the UK says, good evening, ladies. I think the big issue to tackle in the country now is insecurity. How does government deal with insecurity to attract both home and foreign investors? AK, you have some questions on WhatsApp. So, Charles, that is insecurity. Just try to keep the answers short so that we can get in many questions as possible. Then Benson says, our society needs to uphold our community core values by us owning businesses in our community. The National Orientation Agency has also been almost silent. Can we say we are brothers keepers in our country today? That's the question. AK, you have one question with you. AK, are you there?
To answer this, let me quickly bring up my question. Thank you.
Okay, so Charles, quickly answer the role of insecurity and, you know, how we can also start to build that. We've talked a lot about that, what's it called, community. So how do we tackle the issue of insecurity?
This whole brouhaha started as a result of wanting to do a better job tackling insecurity. That's how this whole thing started. So the conversation, in my opinion, has not changed, really. We find that there's an inadequacy in terms of the sheer number of people in the force vis-a-vis the ability to police the community at the community level effectively, whether that is as a result of the number of people or as a result of the technology, that the tools that are available to them is a different question entirely. But this is not, this is something that requires intervention at all levels of government to be able to address. And there's a lot of people saying that their communities were only protected because of the vigilante people there, because of some of the area boys in that place that they often always supported and gave food, especially during the pandemic. And so they came to their rescue when, they were going to be looted and all of that. So it doesn't mean that it's not possible, but we need to, it needs to be a concerted effort, and it needs to be genuine.
So Charles, 1 more minute for your answer, because we really...
So let me quickly just take my question in 1 minute. It's from Rolake. Is the LFET looking at creating major awareness, education for small businesses in Lagos to adopt technology going forward from recent happenings? The greatest strength is learning from what has happened and driving better engagement forward. So I think the real question here is the LFCTF going to engage in capacity building for the small businesses?
Thank you. So we have always engaged in capacity building. So when we give loans, we don't just give loans. We offer a host of other services. Supporting with access to finance, but also access to market, capacity building. Now we're trying to move away from our generic entrepreneurship or business appreciation course to some detailed or sector specific or how do I put it? So we're looking at master classes now in specific areas where the entrepreneurs identify that they have challenges. So that we don't bore them with the basic entrepreneurship appreciation, which some of them, that's feedback that we got.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Charles. That has been really, really an amazing time. It's just fun when we're having a great conversation like this. The time just flies by. Now, please watch a repeat broadcast of this episode tomorrow at 3 p.m. It's been an insightful conversation. And keep all the conversations going on all our social media platforms at Wage Show Africa 1 or at Plus TV Africa as we continue to hear what you're saying. Now, in case you missed today's quote, here it is again. I believe business has to do well, and the community surrounding and that the communities, the surrounding communities also do well. That's the quote for the day. So we're hoping that everyone that has lost, some form of goods or services during this looting and vandalism period will be able to recover and hopefully find solutions to, rebuilding their businesses. Thank you again, AK, for doing this with me. And thank you, Charles. We apologize that Bayomi couldn't make it, but he will come another time. So we'll see you live tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screen. So enjoy your evening.
going beyond NSAS. Nigeria must work for Nigeria.
This 10 million Nigerian youth can contribute for 500 naira now. We have nothing less than 6 to 7 billion naira, and by that time we form our party.
No Nigerian is more Nigerian than any Nigerian.
It's right time for we to stand up and take our future back.
This is the battle we are winning.
Yes.
We are winning
Wherever we stand in this country, we stand in the citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
We want a Nigerian society where the child of it can be a without doing anything. any. Make us shout without doing any.
I would therefore advocate that as we protest for a better policing and society, we must also remember that our workers, politicians, lecturers, civil servants, judges, lawyers, doctors, police are drawn from amongst us. And it is those little injustices that we failed or neglect to address years ago that became the convention that we are addressing now. Let us start anew and with a new orientation and a new social order. If government treats everyone as a stakeholder in the Nigerian project, and we collectively see ourselves as such, and all do our little bit, whether anybody is watching or not, we would have reduced the SARS in our life without having to change the name from SARS to SWAT.
Security cameras for the Lokitel Plaza are still available. These are some of the footage that we're going to use for our own investigation. I will not stop at anything to ensure that I continue to apologize to everyone, to all of us, on this line that we find ourselves.
I am indeed deeply pained that innocent lives have been lost. These tragedies are uncalled for and unnecessary. Both our deeds and words have shown how committed this administration has been to the well-being and welfare of citizens. I would like to appeal to protesters to note and take advantage of the various well-thought-out initiatives of this administration designed to make their lives better and more meaningful. Your voice has been heard, loud and clear, and we are responding. I therefore call on our youth to discontinue the street protests and constructively engage government in finding solutions.
Thank you for joining us on News on the Hour on Plus TV Africa. Here are the stories making the headlines. I am Osaogie Ogbonwa. The Defense Headquarters has denied media reports that 4 persons were killed by soldiers and their bodies dumped in a pond in Jos during the clampdown on looters of private properties in the state. The Coordinator Defense Media Operations, Major General John Enenche, in a statement on Saturday described such reports as malicious and mischievous. Enenche explained that the soldiers attached to the Special Task Force of Operation Safe Haven were never engaged in any professional misconduct in preventing criminals from perpetrating crimes in the state. It said that troops, in an attempt to stop hoodlums from looting the residence of the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Yakubu Dogara, on October 25th, only arrested perpetrators. According to him, the hoodlums and vandals invaded the private property of the former Speaker at Lamingo with a view to looting it. And Jacob Adeleke, the kidnapped caretaker chairman, Igana Local Government Council area of Oyo State, and his driver have regained their freedom. The two hostages were reportedly kidnapped by some unknown gunmen on their way to Ibadan barely 6 days ago. The police, in collaboration with men of the Vigilante Group of Nigeria in the zone, had been combing the forest in search of the abducted men. A council chairman who spoke on the condition of anonymity broke the news of their release on Friday night. When contacted for confirmation, the police public relations officer, Oyo State Command, Olubenga Fadeyi, said the chairman has regained his freedom and has been reunited with his family. And still talking of kidnappings, Reverend Polycarp Zango, a pastor with the Church of Christ in Nations, COCIN in Jos, Plateau State, has been released from the captivity of Boko Haram. Zango was kidnapped by the insurgents on the 19th of October while on a journey to a ministers' conference in Gombe. The Vice Chairman, Christian Association of Nigeria, Northern Region, Reverend John Hayab, has now confirmed Zango regained his freedom on Friday night. And he joins us now to bring us up to speed on that story. Thank you very much for joining us, Reverend.
Thank you too, and you can see I'm smiling today.
I'm smiling also. I remember when we had this conversation yesterday, I was filled with worry, and you also shared a lot of concerns about the safety of Reverend Polycarp. So quickly tell us, how this played out, how he regained his freedom, what have the last few hours been like?
Well, we may not be in good position to tell exactly what happened at the moment. And looking at the conditions surrounding the kidnap and then the release, we only accept to speak because we want to express gratitude to God, gratitude to Nigerians, gratitude to all of you for standing with us, for praying with us, for speaking out, and then our brother is back. Yesterday night when this news came out, and someone was in the house and videoed his wife dancing, jumping, though he wasn't home at that time. And finally today he has returned home. All we could say is that to God be the glory. But what exactly transpired at the moment is not what we can say. We don't want to also preempt every other further investigation, but we want to just say, God, we thank you because this victim was not killed. This victim has returned home. At least our sorrow, our pains, our regrets, our disappointment has turned to joy. So we just thank the Nigerians. We thank those who play a role to bring about his release. We thank those who prayed. If there's government involved, security is involved, we thank them. We don't want to even mention him. We just thank everybody because our brother is back. This is a miracle, and we have every reason to celebrate and thank God for it.
And of course, on your screen there for our viewers, as the wife of Reverend Polycarp, of course, rejoicing after his release. Quickly also, can you share with us any details about his health? Was there any harm, done to him? Is he, in full health and, healthy?
Well, not to my knowledge, and nobody has actually confirmed that, but having stayed with them these 9-10 days, he needs to see a doctor. He needs to be examined, and then we can say something in future, exactly what is his state of health. Sometimes when you are in this kind of excitement, this kind of joy, there are things you don't even remember to do them. You just want to first celebrate the return of someone who you have started mourning, started feeling that he's not going to come back. I think that's majorly what is going on, but definitely he's going to see a doctor in this short time, and then other investigations will be taken. We still believe that we'll be talking with security agencies and even government to know more about this, but we are actually taking measures among ourselves that in the future, church leaders, Christian groups traveling must no longer travel in such a way that show that they are going for religious purpose. Since we have evil surrounding our community, we must be wise. The Bible teaches us to apply wisdom. It is not correct when we go out the way we go out these days. It is only going to be exposing us to danger and then give enemies the opportunity to ridicule us and cause us pains.
All right. Is there any word from was he kidnapped alone? Can you confirm if he was kidnapped alone or he was taken with other people? And if with other people?
He was taken with 3 other women.
Okay.
But at the moment, I don't think I have enough information about those women because the focus was about him and he is back. But we know by evening and tomorrow morning we will have details about those women. But because he's a pastor, and the focus here is like a religious leader has been kidnapped and is in danger, and we're just coming out of Andy's reality that his head was chopped off. We don't want something like that to happen to another pastor, and so the focus was on him. But he was not kidnapped alone. There were other women. They were going for religious activities, and this unfortunate thing happened. But for now, we are grateful because he's back. We hope that those women should be back too. If they are not, then we will continue with their own struggle too.
And hopefully his return would also aid in investigations and follow-up from security agencies, just in case the others are still in captivity. I want to also quickly ask about what this does for the Christian community in the North. Is this a boost? And what other things would you also advise for your fellow pastors and fellow, reverends, still working in Northern Nigeria? It must be really, really dangerous terrain for them to be working. So what would your quick advice be for them?
What this has, what I can say this has done to the church in Northern Nigeria is that it has strengthened our faith in God. It has strengthened our courage to stand and continue to pray when we have difficulty. The experience of Peter in the Bible when he was in prison and miraculously he came out, and even believers couldn't believe that he could come out, is what we have experienced. So this is to show us that what we read and study about God's intervention in difficult situations is real. So if we have faith in God, if we trust in God, if we continue to stand with God, even in difficult situations, God is going to deliver us. But as I've said earlier, we have to also learn lessons that looking at the terrain, the challenge we are facing, people should not be discouraged taking up ministries. People should not be discouraged going out there to witness or going out here to evangelize. People should not be discouraged going out there to serve the Lord, but we must apply wisdom. What kind of wisdom are we going to apply? May not be good for me to say it on media. It's something we are going to discuss among our pastors and encourage one another on what to do.
Reverend Hayab, thank you very much for speaking with us. I know that you, of course, have to get back to Reverend Polycarp Zango. So extend our wishes to him, and we look forward to speaking with you again. Please stay safe.
He will definitely hear this, and let me, on behalf of the Christian Association, thank you all media for taking up this matter. Apart from a few other newspapers that came up, your television actually was concerned and brought up this matter. We do appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Still in the news, the Defense Headquarters says that it has neutralized about 35 terrorists belonging to the Boko Haram terrorist group and the Islamic State of West Africa in the last 1 week. The coordinator of the Defense Media Operations, Major General John Enenche, says troops from the Operation Lafia Dole, acting under the subsidiary Operation Firepower, engaged the terrorists in several communities in Borno State, scoring major hits and recovering a large cache of arms and ammunition, including 2 gun trucks.
Within the period in focus, the land component of Operation Lafia Dole, under the subsidiary Operation Firepower, conducted several robust operations. Troops executed attacks on terrorist hideouts, repelled attacks on in-troops locations, and forestalled attack on internally displaced persons convoy. Large caches of arms and ammunition, as well as materials meant to produce improvised explosive devices, and 2 gun trucks were captured from the terrorists. Also recorded during the period, troops successfully repelled 3 separate attacks by the DHG and ISWAP terrorists at Megumeri, Gajiram, and Damboa in Borno State. In the encounters, a total of 13 terrorists were killed in contact, and arms and ammunition were recovered.
Welcome back. You're still watching News on the Hour on Plus TV Africa. The Osun State Governor, Gboyega Oyetola, has been lauded for his prudence in addressing the demands of EndSARS protesters and his handling of the subsequent looting and property destruction in the state. Members of Osun elders, led by APC chieftain Chief B.C. Akonde, gave the commendation during a solidarity visit to the governor at the government house in Osogbo. The elders commended Oyetola for the ways he prevented the last EndSARS attack against him and his convoy from degenerating into total breakdown of law and order. Speaking, Governor Oyetola appreciated the elders for the visit and cleared the air that there was no attempt by the government to hoard the looted COVID palliatives, but was instructed by the committee at the federal level to hold on.
This country, particularly our state, has witnessed violence with protest in the past few weeks. And the share of our state has been very enormous. In all that happened, we see that a lot must be wrong with our education. And we want to suggest that the state efforts must be more intensified in the areas of agriculture.
The palliative was there, and listening to radio, discussions. We're adding palliative because of an election. I don't have any election until the next 2 years anyway. So I think it's important to really situate this thing the way it is. But unfortunately, people took advantage of that to do massive looting. I think by now, virtually everybody must have been able to recover. It's a percentage, a small percentage compared with what has been looted. At least we try to assist them in a way to recover some of the looted items.
The Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, says 205 critical security assets, corporate facilities and private property were burnt or vandalized during the EndSARS protest. During a virtual conference with senior police officers on Friday, the IGP said statistics collated between October 11, when the protest assumed a national dimension, and October 27th indicated that 14 states recorded major violence. Lagos, Edo, Delta, Oyo, Kano, Plateau, Osun, Ondo, Ogun State, Rivers, Abia, Imo, Ekiti, and the Federal Capital Territory were all named. The police boss said 71 public warehouses and 248 privately owned stores were looted. He said there are 51 civilian fatalities with 37 injured, and 22 policemen were murdered with 26 others injured during the protest. Adamu said that 10 firearms, including 8 AK-47 rifles, carted away during attacks on police stations, and a locally made pistol had been recovered. Also, the Inspector General of Police, IGP Mohammed Adamu, has inaugurated a 9-man committee for the assessment of losses suffered by the Nigerian police force during the EndSARS protests across the country. A statement issued on Friday by the force public relations officer, Frank Mba, said the IGP noted that the setting up of the assessment committee is informed by the need to properly document the losses suffered by the force for the purposes of strategic planning, reconstruction and re-equipment, as well as for future reference. The committee, which has CP Abutu Yaro as chairman, was charged by the IGP to see the assignment as a call to service, which must be undertaken with purposefulness, empathy, dedication and sacrifice. And also in the news, the Shelter Initiative for the African Woman says that it lost over 150 million naira to hoodlums who attacked its premises in Abuja searching for food palliatives. The privately owned initiative, which caters for women and youths in need, giving food aid to the poor and vulnerable and revolving loans to women entrepreneurs, says the hoodlums carted away everything in sight within their premises, including doors, window protectors, overhead tanks, plumbing materials, and others. The site manager of the estate, Joseph Chukwu, urged the police to investigate those behind the attacks and tasked the state government to speedily come to their aid.
They came in the afternoon and we were able to have repelled them. But in the night, it simply couldn't, we couldn't just hold them off anymore. They came with everything that they could and raided the estate. The two houses that housed those food items were boggled and everything there looted. They vandalized the house, took away things that are not food items, took away every plumbing materials, every electrical materials in those houses, went to our main office and carted away goods that actually cannot be quantified as equal to now. We're asking the police to do a thorough investigation, but we actually need the government to come in and do something.
And still in Adamawa, the state government has confirmed the arrest of over 200 suspected looters, as well as the return of items carted away by the suspects. Governor Amadu Fintiri confirmed this to newsmen on an inspection visit to government facilities within the state. Fintiri, however, says the state government will continue to monitor developing issues so as to restore law and order in the state.
The people have complied. We have seen it together with you. Substantially from what we can see, for the non-food items, more than 70% have been returned. Over 60 tractors have been recovered and returned. They're in the custody of the security agency. And we will continue to monitor till evening to see if they are still complying with the order. Even though reports reaching me, they are complying substantially.
Hoodlums have taken away 108 brand new tractors out of 110 that we have in our warehouse. They have also taken away substantial quantity of inputs, certified seed, quality fertilizer, herbicide, water pumps, and water fuel. So, and we have the cooperation of security agencies, particularly the police, in making recoveries. We have recovered substantial number of units of tractors. You can see them there as testified by the CP, and the recovery is ongoing.
Security agencies have so far dealt decisively with all acts of lawlessness. As I speak, we have 238 males and female suspects. Out of these, 184 were apprehended for breaking and looting government, private, and corporate warehouses in the state, while another 54 were arrested for violating the state government curfew. Investigations so far conducted led to the recovery of 35 tractors. They are here. 15 bags of rice, 142 bags of fertilizer, 11 bags of guinea corn, 3 water pumps, 5 Indomie cartons, 19 pieces of excellent expectorant medicine.
And now to stories from other parts of Africa. Tanzania's two leading opposition parties said on Saturday that they would not recognize the results of a presidential election that handed incumbent John Magufuli a second 5-year term. On Friday, Tanzania's National Electoral Commission declared Magufuli the winner of Wednesday's poll with 84% of the vote against 13% for his opponent Tundu Lissu of the Chadema party. And President Alassane Ouattara seeks a third term in an election two rival candidates have urged their supporters to boycott. The streets of the commercial city Abidjan were quiet and largely empty in contrast to the sometimes violent run-up to the election, which is seen as a test of stability in Ivory Coast, the world's top cocoa producer and one of Africa's fastest-growing economies. The street clashes have killed 30 people and brought back memories of the 2010 vote that Ouattara won, but which unleashed a brief civil war that killed 3,000 people when his predecessor, Laurent Gbagbo, refused to step down. The recent violence has pitted the 78-year-old president's supporters against those of his opponents who he says, or rather who say he is breaking the law by running again because the Constitution limits presidents to 2 terms and is jeopardizing the country's hard-earned economic gains. The Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention on Friday urged the African continent to brace itself for a possible second wave of COVID-19 infections. According to Africa's CDC, the number of confirmed cases in the African continent has reached 1,759,794. The Continental Disease Control and Prevention Agency said in a statement that the death toll related to the pandemic stood at 42,336 as of Friday afternoon. A total of 1,438,841 people infected with COVID-19 have recovered across the continent so far, the Africa CDC said. The most COVID-19 affected African countries in terms of number of positive cases include South Africa, Morocco, Egypt, Ethiopia, and Nigeria. And outside Africa, Russia's daily tally of coronavirus cases stood at 18,140 on Saturday, including 4,952 in Moscow, taking the national total to 1,618,116 since the pandemic began. Authorities also reported 334 deaths in the past 24 hours, bringing the official death toll to 27,990. Moscow remains the epicenter of a coronavirus spread in Russia, with over 400,000 confirmed cases. And at least 2 people were killed and 51 injured after a gas pipeline explosion in southern Iraq, police sources said on Saturday. The blast occurred on Friday, 9 October 30, near the southern city of Samawa, 270 kilometers south of Baghdad, and firefighters have managed to contain the fire after shutting down the gas line, police said. A military statement said that the blast killed 2 children and injured 28, including 9 Shiite paramilitary fighters. The cause is still unknown and fire crews are still trying to put out the flames, it said. And now for some business news, trading reopened on the Nigerian Stock Exchange on Friday after the Eid el-Nabil celebration, still on an upward trend, growing by 571 billion naira. Specifically, the market capitalization, which opened at 15.386 trillion naira, inched higher by 371 billion, or 3.71%, to close at 15.957 trillion naira. Also, the all-share index improved by 1,093.09 points, or 3.71%, to close at 30,530.69 from 29,437.60 achieved on Wednesday. A breakdown of the price movement chart shows that 43 stocks recorded price appreciation in contrast with 11 losers. Still in business, consumers' confidence in the economy dropped in the third quarter of the year, according to a survey by the Central Bank of Nigeria. The Statistics Department of the CBN disclosed this in its Consumer Expectation Survey report for September, which was released on Friday. The report said consumers were, however, optimistic in their outlook for the next quarter and the next 12 months, with indices of 10.1 and 30.5 points respectively. This positive outlook could be attributed to the expected increase in net household income and anticipated improvement in Nigeria's economic conditions and expectations to save a bit or have plenty over savings in the next quarter and the next 12 months. And up next is our roundup on entertainment and sports news. Stay with us. Welcome back to News on the Hour, and now for some entertainment stories. Sir Sean Connery has died at the age of 90, his family has said. The Scottish actor was best known for his portrayal of James Bond, being the first to bring the role to the big screen and appearing in 7 of the spy thrillers. Sir Sean Connery died overnight in his sleep while in the Bahamas. It is understood that he had been unwell for some time. His acting career spanned decades, and his many awards include an Oscar, 2 BAFTA awards, and 3 Golden Globes. Sean Connery's other films include The Hunt for Red October, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and The Rock. And now in sports, Governor Godwin Obaseki has decided to throw all gates leading into the main bowl of the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium open. The game, which is the first competitive match for the Super Eagles since the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, will take place on November 13, a day after the inauguration of Governor Obaseki and his deputy, Philip Shoaibu, for their second term in office. The Chief Press Secretary to the Deputy Governor, Musa Ebohina, said the governor decided to throw the stadium gates open to enable fans from Edo State and other neighboring states give the Super Eagles the support they need to cage the visiting Leon Stars. Also in sports, Paris Saint-Germain's Brazil forward Neymar will be sidelined until after the international break in mid-November. The French club coach Thomas Tuchel said on Friday. This development follows his injury against Istanbul Başakşehir in the UEFA Champions League on Wednesday. Neymar came off with a thigh muscle problem in the 26th minute of the 2-0 win over the Turkish side. He said Neymar should be back after the international break, according to Tuchel, as he told reporters ahead of PSG's Ligue 1 game at Nantes on Saturday. And that's our news roundup of events at this hour. For more news updates, please follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa. We will be back later with more stories making the headlines. Do join us. I am Osaogie Ogbonwa.
Welcome to Plus Events on Plus TV Africa, and get ready to be entertained, educated, and informed. This week's lineup is one I bet you would love.
situation where a governor could, before he leaves office, pass law that will pay him the way these people, it is daylight robbery.
First on our lineup is the YouTube Music launch.
On March 11, 2020, YouTube Music launched in Nigeria and held an exclusive press event to officially announce and demonstrate YouTube Music and YouTube Premium at the Google Developer Space, Ikoyi. The event started with an opening address from Taiwo Kola Ogunlade, Google's Head of Communications and Public Affairs for West Africa, followed by Adi Awofisayo, who is YouTube's Content Partnership Manager, Sub-Saharan Africa. She did a demonstration of the app using statistics. She emphasized on the fact that the purpose of the YouTube Music is to bring fans closer to their favorite artists.
I would say without a doubt, people already know that YouTube actually helps. I would say from the family of Google, basically. So YouTube has actually been there for years and it has actually helped people in different ways. So you can go on the platform to learn different things. Aside from learn different things, you can also actually upgrade your skills. So it actually depends on what you're using YouTube for, as a user or as a publisher.
And very, very exciting to talk to you guys about music in Nigeria and talk to you guys about YouTube Music launching in Nigeria. My colleague Tutu will go deep dive into YouTube Music launching in Nigeria, but I wanted to give you guys the landscape of YouTube Music in Nigeria, why music is important to YouTube, why music is important to Nigerian audience. Just give you guys some insight, as YouTube is a huge platform, right? We have 2 billion monthly users who log in to YouTube every month, right? And that's huge. It gives you the idea and it gives you the scope as to how many potential audiences Nigerian artists can have access to.
Adetutu Laditon gave a well-detailed tutorial on how to use the app.
It's recommendation built for you. And so you look at our algorithm. We know who you are based on what you do and how you enjoy your music. So if you initially come into the app, it asks you a few questions. Do you like Chris Brown? Do you like soul? Do you like this? On a regular basis, because of what you've indicated as your preference, it begins to surface music in that category to you. So it's recommended for you. There's thousands of playlists. There are multiple ways to listen to. Like I said, if you want to set an alarm clock for a particular song to wake you up, you can actually do that with YouTube Music. You can listen to it in your car and your smart speakers. The hottest videos. So all the Nigerian artists are featured in it. As the song drops, you would find it on YouTube Music. And obviously, with the premium version, which is one of the cool things, we talk about connectivity as an issue. You can offline the music, right? So you can offline the music and listen to it without internet. This is one of the cool things, especially for our market, right? So once you're on YouTube Music Premium, it enables you, if you go into a Wi-Fi environment, offline, and when you do not have internet connectivity, you can listen to the music without data.
There was a question and answer session.
As regards the subscription option, the family plan, how many people can be on the plan?
How many people can be on the family plan? I believe it's 5, you and 5.
Then another question is...
And that costs...
1,400.
YouTube Music in itself is very immersive. I've been using it for a couple of months now before its launch, and I've sort of enjoyed the amount of vast genre of music available on the platform. The fact that it has video integrated into it, right? The fact that there's a premium version that I don't have to listen to ads. The fact that there are playlists that have been customized to my own needs, right? So the whole immersive experience around it is why I think Nigerians should enjoy it.
If you love music, and if you love music that's personalized to you, that's the amazing thing that YouTube Music does. We figure out your taste. We ask you, when you first log on the app, we actually ask you what types of artists or music you listen to. And then from that, we curate music that's personalized to your taste. And you can basically play your music on YouTube Music, live it behind, and it can just start curating and giving you music that is personalized and music that you love.
How do you tend to win people off Apple Music and for them to switch to YouTube? So apart from the video, so for example, I use Apple Music. Why should I switch over to YouTube Music? Just because? What do you
love about Apple Music?
I love the fact that I can get any artist that I want. So almost of the things that you've put here, I've discovered a lot of artists on Apple Music. And what I do, so that's why the video doesn't really do it for me. I wake up in the morning, I plug up my laptop, just search for something. If I want to change, just change, and I'm doing what I need to do, preparing for work.
It's up to the user to decide whether or not the features that we're offering on YouTube Music works for them. So one of those features is like the videos, like you said. Also, it's highly personalized. YouTube, again, is the #2 biggest search engine. So in terms of having all the content available for you, it's on there on YouTube Music. I don't know if we also showed you lyrics. So you can also see lyrics on the app. So instead of Shazamming it or going to another app to go and find a lyric, you can find it in your YouTube Music app.
A surprise guest, Naira Marley, was invited on stage. The singer spoke about his inspiration and thrilled the audience.
Let's talk about your style of music, because I mean, you just walk in and some people are already doing the dance, some people are already your style of music is making so much waves in Nigeria at the moment. I mean, we have people, a whole new generation of people that call themselves What's your inspiration? What's your inspiration for music, or what experiences have you had that have gotten you to this point?
I think my inspiration is just a little bit of everything, like a little bit of Fuji, a little bit of the drums, a little bit of Muslim music, you know, a little bit of this proper Yoruba movie, like Abidjan.
King Sunny Ade?
No, I mean movies like I'm talking about Nigerian movies, like the village movies, Yoruba movies, like Ayokoto, Abameda,
Wow, so it's like taking it back.
Yeah, it's a bit
wow.
of everything. Like the Ayo, the Masquerade, a bit of everything, you know.
Guess the YouTube music streaming platform is here to stay.
Honey!
Daddy, please, can I go out with you and Mommy tonight?
Sure thing, sweetie. Get your shoes and we go.
Promise?
You have my word.
Daddy!
You know I wouldn't leave without you, my princess. Stay safe. Maintain social distance. We are Fidelity. We keep our word.
The maiden edition of the Figure 8 pageant took place and it was a success. Take a look.
The maiden edition of the Figure 8 pageant took place on the 5th of March 2020 at the Muzon Center Shell Hall. The event was put together by veteran Nollywood actress and fitness enthusiast and philanthropist Kate Henshaw in order to encourage young women to accept their natural skin color and promote authenticity and the melanin skin color without an attempt to alter their skin by bleaching or any other way. And what better way to pass across the message than through pageantry? The hashtag for the event was Rich Not Bleach. The host of the event was Nollywood actress Lala Akindoju. It was a star-studded event as celebrities like Chigo, Richard Mufedamijo, Rita Dominic, Alibaba, and a host of others were in attendance. The night opened with Kate's speech on why she decided to come up with the pageant, and despite pressure in the Nollywood industry, she didn't alter her skin color. The contestants were then introduced. The pageantry involved 13 contestants, but in the end, there was only one winner.
The reason why I did this, I was telling one of the journalists out there that after this event, I'm going to ask my friend why she changed her color. We were in school together, dark and beautiful, her bed in her house, her bed in my bed. I looked through Facebook some years ago and she was Rita's color. I'm like, wow, what happened. And I wasn't sure if I should ask her or not ask her, but every time I scrolled through,